Hey guys, how's it going? We are on Thursday night, and it's the last hour and a half of trying to do something for myself before, how would you say? Basically do something where it's just me. It's kind of funny. Thursday I come around and this is my last opportunity to get something selfishly in for myself. It's kind of strange how I feel that way, when as Sunday I don't feel like being selfish. You know, my kid goes away, it's totally different. Now it's just kind of, you know, I kind of treasure that time. Of course, I just saw my son, so that always helps. But and knowing he's gonna, you know, I just got to get through one more day of work. Thursdays are always an easy day for me. Probably one of the easier days of the week. So I'm not on the server tonight. I'm not too sure when I'm going to go back. It's got nothing to do with the guys at Southwest. A great bunch of guys. Has nothing to do with what they're doing or anything like that. It's me. So don't mind me. I am stuffing my face and I don't care. I'm going to chew. I'm going to crunch. Oops, I already got the simulator open, don't I? Alright. Yeah, I'm still in run 8. For now. We'll see if this thing has anything left by the time I through it. Let's get to a better time of day. Oh crap. So we'll start with the basics in California. Try not to talk too much. I'm just trying to think at the moment, but I will once I'm done stuffing my face here. That's what happens. I get home, I stuff my face, and then I try to figure out what the hell I want to do. So I'm probably going to avoid high capacity, massive amounts of work, and I am desperately trying to get into a smaller frame of mind. Barstow's not one of them. I went back to what I was actually posted on Deaf Ears, but that's normal with Train Sim. Apparently that's happening with my own forum these days as well. Despite the fact that I did get some responses to the last video that I did on Run 8 on Tuesday, is a drop in the bucket. Especially when you post messages. I mean, when I post a message, it takes me a little bit of time. I usually put a lot of thought into it. Perhaps I'm repeating myself. It's certainly not preaching to the choir as far as I can tell, because the choir ain't there. In fact, I am nowhere near the choir. I am so different. I am a micro niche within this micro niche. Because while this has the potential of simulating, and I've seen that. I remember sitting right here when version 2 came out, and we were on the RTS California server, not the one I own, but Mike did. And I'd be dispatching one side, he'd be dispatching the other, and we ran full train schedules. We had enough key people in key positions, and we were able to keep it going. That was before LA. That was before Seligman. You add LA, you add Seligman, totally changes. The game totally changes. And we knew I knew LA was coming. I dreaded that back when version 2. Now, first of all, I appreciate the gift that Ski gave me. I've enjoyed it. I certainly got my gift's worth. I have had fun, and I'll do it again. I'm not done with LA. I'm staying away from LA for a reason. It's too complicated. There's too much work for one person. So, but I remember, you can look back in some of the YouTube videos, probably look back somewhere around, I would say, January of 2017. I believe that's when version 2 had just came out, and we ran it to full capacity. Those were some of the best sessions. It has never been as good as that, in my opinion, since. It has been a slow, steady, dying downhill run as far as I'm concerned. And I felt it. I felt it all last year. And it doesn't matter how many new people come along. It doesn't matter how many damn routes. In fact, all it does is just water things down even more. And this isn't nothing against Southwest. It got nothing to do with Southwest server. This has to do with the lack of vision, I think. Or Run8 has a totally different vision than what I see it. Because Run8 actually has the potential to please a lot of people for a lot of different things, despite the fact it's not good eye candy, despite the fact that it's not or not good enough eye candy, I guess, to the masses who bitch and whine and complain about, you know, frogs and switches back in version 1. Like, give me a break. People are worried about shadows. Hey, the shadows are awesome. That's great. But then I see rendering speeds down on a mid-range computer like mine. I see hump issues now. I ain't dealing with that. I don't want to deal with that. It's too bad because I like the hump. I can take shadows off. Once you get some candy in your mouth, you know, you like the taste. You don't want to give it up. So anyways, yeah, I remember being right here. We've had some great streams. And yeah, I'm sure there's still some dispatching. It's cool coming on the server and seeing a train when you pop up and you know, seeing trains going by. It's cool to be on multiplayer. It's good to be with other people. But as far as I'm concerned, that's done. Maybe it'll come back sometime. I don't know, but it ain't coming back. And you know, there's got to be a lot of changes to take place. Everything's too watered down. To me, they've lost a lot of their main base of support. And oddly enough, some of their base of support is probably some of their huge or biggest critics. And there's some of those people that I don't see eye to eye with. They're gone. And it's kind of funny. You know, we have more in common than I realize. Or sorry, then maybe we both realize. I kind of know it. Maybe he doesn't realize it, but I won't even say his name. There's more in common. Believe me. Not to say that, you know, he's not perfect, I'm not perfect, whatever. I don't care. I don't know what the hell he's doing in his life. I don't care. He's doing his own thing. But, you know, RTS was the second major whatever you want to call it to fall, as far as I'm concerned. But I'm stubborn as hell. So I know, since I can't go to something else and I'm too much of a procrastinator and realize it's going to take too much time, and I don't want to, honestly, I don't want to be in the position that Run8's in, the team that has to deal with people whining and bitching about how their software ain't working and all this other stuff. And you know, believe me, trust me, I know there's a lot of technical support that goes into Run8. So I know I sound ingenuous sometimes or not appreciative. I am. I just wish it would work both ways. You know what I mean? I wish it would work both ways. That's all. Maybe a little bit better improvement, maybe learning, maybe knowing who your base really is. I don't know. But anyways, I digress. It is what it is. They can do whatever they want. It's their product. I've always said that all along. You don't like it, do something else. So we are here in California. Let's start here first. I've done a similar video to this, and here's the issues we get. Now, I already told you about LA. This, I mean, running anything small on this section is ludicrous. I mean, you can, there's not a bit of single track in there whatsoever. Now, you don't necessarily have to have a single track. You can run double track and have a lower capacity line, because I do remember a time when there was a double track line in Niagara between, for example, Hamilton and Niagara Falls, that only ran, I think, about 12 trains a day. They're a little bit lower now, but it was because it was busy, a lot busier at one time. In fact, if you look, we'll look at the Northeast shortly, but if you look at the Northeast, they used to be a 4-track main line back in the Penn Central days, or the was it New York Central, Penn Central? I'm not sure which one, but it used to be a 4-track main line, steam to diesel era. And then, you know, I don't know if they took away the 3rd track, or they took both the 4th and the 3rd away and left it with 2. Like right away they took away 2. But even at double track today, the truth of the matter is it's actually under capacity line. You can run a lot more traffic on it. It's, you know, it is what it is, so they keep it the way it is, whereas CN takes a lot of their has taken a lot of their double track lines, including a much busier Strathroy sub between London and Sarnia to Port Huron, Michigan. They have taken that double track main line and divided up. So what they do is they take, it's kind of like looking at this, where you have a double track. Let's assume this is all double track, and then they basically take out part of the double track and then put in single track sections. So they remove, like, assuming, if you were to assume this was a double track to West Colton, let's say, they basically take out that second track. I'm not sure the purpose of that is. It's got something to do with taxes or something like that, or maybe just maintenance costs. But it actually costs them more in CTC, because what ends up happening is, back in the day it used to be ABS, OCS/ABS. OCS is like in Canada, it's like track warrant control. So then they put CTC in. This happened in 2000. This had to do with a fatal accident with a passenger train, and I think it was the culmination of a fatal passenger accident that took place, I believe. I forget which one, because there's been a few. And basically the mandate was, because I believe it happened in southwestern Ontario and involved a freight in an OCS section, which was a track warrant, and the switch was left by a switching crew or something, aligned to the siding. I can't remember the exact, but basically it involved human error, I believe, and then something went wrong. Oh yeah, I forgot I got these stupid ass AI things all set up. We're gonna have to shut that off. How do I do this again? It's been a while. AI traffic generation will turn off for now. We'll delete that. So California, and I do love the territory. I appreciate definitely appreciate the gift, but I'm not going to be using this for any single player, and I do say the word single player right now. I'm going to build this for something that I can do, and only I plan on doing for myself, and just for myself. I'm not going to worry about other people's needs. Will I live stream it? Will I YouTube it? That remains to be seen. If the channel can gain popularity, then that's fine. If it maintains it, that's probably fine too. If I see a noticeable decline, I'll just pull a plug on it. It's just that simple. I don't care at this point. I've tried. I even tried with, and I'm still enjoying Barents Sea as well. I was thinking about doing that tonight actually, and I may switch things up a little bit because I do better when I have a little bit more time to be creative. Tonight I don't have too much time, so Tuesdays and Thursdays I put myself into a situation now where I would probably be much better served at doing a little bit of with the fishing Barents Sea. Then I'll go back to Run 8 on a Monday or Sunday or something like that. We'll see, or maybe even a Monday and a Wednesday because I'll have time. I've said I was going to do it at different times, but I might just switch things around a little bit because and you know, there's times where I think about just shutting the YouTube down and just stop doing it, and I may do that too. Like I said before, it's getting to the point, and I do appreciate the support that I've had over the years, but it's getting to the point where I have to look out for me. It's you know, I'm out there, I'm trying to, and I get, sometimes I get a reaction, and sometimes I get people who understand exactly how I'm feeling. But when you can have something like this that's capable of running 100% prototypically, but yet these worlds are so freaking huge that it requires so much manpower. What kind of joke brings single player? I remember what the tagline of one of their advertising, you know, on their website was saying about, hey, single player. Now, I'm not saying it's their fault, but the whole idea was, you know, this will bring single player to the next level or something like that. So this was part of what version 2 was coming, because they showed what the AI was going to look like and all that other stuff. And nobody knew what that really meant, other than that there was going to be AI. I didn't know what it meant. All I knew was, okay, well, there's going to be some kind of AI, and we'll wait and see what they do. And if you speculate on certain forums, they said, no, you can't do that. And then other moderators were okay with it, and eventually I got sick of their hypocrisy and told them to go screw themselves. And I've never been back, other than trying to read their forums, but hey, you know, that's another story. So, seems like I make a lot of enemies, because I like to tell them basically how it is, not what they want to hear. So, Mojave sub. The issue here, and I said this the other night, the issue is when version 2 came out, Mojave got included with needles. Now, this has to do with those AI spawn points. The AI spawn points occur here. You have one that comes out of Saco. You have another one that comes, I think it's down right here or something like that. So there's your BNSF and UP. Bakersfield, they do perfectly fine. Back in version 1, they had one at Hinckley. Version 1 did not have the Palmdale cutoff. So they had Fleta. I think they... well, wait, hold on a second. They had Fleta, but I'm getting confused with these spawn points and what RTS did. Different story. We didn't have AI then, so of course we had RTS, and RTS worked fine for what it did. In its latest days, Ski had come up with some code that was able to go into the files, find out the track database, and basically place trains accurately wherever the hell you wanted to put them. We lost that ability once they locked those files, and I think from that point Ski wasn't really interested in programming it anymore, and because of how the AI worked, we weren't really interested, because we needed something that was going to work on very high capacity lines, which is what these all are. These are high capacity lines, especially when you start getting into the double and triple track sections. But this does represent what I would say is probably the closest that you can come to as far as a single track. The only problem is when it comes to spawns, you're going to have to do a lot of manual work in order to get those spawns, or you're going to have to create trains ahead of time, do other things. I haven't really tried doing it manually. I used to do it always with RTS. I haven't tried doing it manually. I know for a fact that doing it through the AI system or the AI spawner isn't going to work for this particular reason, because the only spawn points that you will see here is Vincent. That's the only spawn point that's coming that way. I'm trying to think. Yeah, oh yeah, and is Highland another one? I guess Highland's another one too. Okay. Sorry, because here's the theory. The theory is if you don't have Cajon sub, we're going to give you the opportunity to spawn here and here, but we're not going to give you Hinckley, because guess what? You're not going to get Hinckley because everybody knows we want to go through Barstow, don't we? That just defeats the whole purpose, because now it looks like a friggin' big ass line, and I was spawning BNSF trains all the way down here. They'd have to run the line. It was ridiculous. The farthest you could spawn, actually, or the closest you could spawn in a real BNSF train is Needles. That's because not everybody has the Seligman sub, just like me. So that allows me to continue to at least operate this, whether I have Seligman or not. And because this is the default and everybody gets this, my whole emphasis was, if I take away a certain section, then nobody's interested. But that being said, I'm not worried about what everybody else wants right now. I'm just looking out for number one, and because I am number one, as Captain Picard would say, I have the bridge number one, and I am in the captain's chair. I can look at this and say, hey, do I want to go with something like this? And I'm saying right now we'll see, but let's look further. We'll go to the main menu. We'll select a different region. So let me go to Selkirk for a minute. Another thing that got into, or at least got me thinking a little bit more, is the capacity and potentially the ease. Well, there's a few ways of looking at it. I haven't run Selkirk since the latest update that was supposed to, I believe, fix some of the issues, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't know if humping will still cause issues with me, because I still have issues. I would actually probably try to avoid humping, period. So let's take a look and see what we got. This actually has, believe it or not, been one of my favorite routes. From it's close to me. It reminds me of my neck of the woods. I'm only 30 minutes away from Buffalo. Skis in the Buffalo area, so so you're looking at you're basically looking at two areas here. Now, of course, yes, we're dealing with double track territory. It's not the end of the world. Yeah, you lose the single track sense of things, but it's very easy to dispatch. And when I mean by dispatch, it's very easy to do anarchy. I thought about that a little bit, and I thought, well, maybe there's some potential to try something. And the ideas that are coming through right now, or at least the ideas that I've thought about doing, involve DeWitt. It doesn't involve Selkirk. The reason why I say involve DeWitt is because when you look at that section, well, there's a couple key factors here actually. This particular, the Mohawk sub actually is set up a little bit better in regards to being able to, how would I say, it's set up a little bit better in regards to being able to continue the ability to have the AI spawning. Unlike California, which is set up poorly, this actually has multiple spawn points. So you don't necessarily have to. In fact, let me test that theory for a minute, and I will show you what I mean. I'm going to go ahead. I'll go into the AI traffic generation. This is already on, but I'll turn it off for a minute. And I'll go into the various spawn points. Now, of course, I have things set up a little bit differently. It's been a while since I've used. Okay. Yeah, Amsterdam's a little too far away. Let's Castleton sub, no. Fonda, Little Falls, Oneida is one of them. So you got Fonda, Little Falls, Oneida. You actually can do quite a bit here in single player. If you wanted to. That's kind of tempting. I'll get it. I'm not too sure of who's what for. Well, that's the symbols. Hold on a second. I don't want to go there. Or do I? Oh, that's the local symbols. Okay. Well, that's okay. That's okay. That all can be built up upon. Let me just spawn that for a minute one more time. So this time I've tagged it for industries, although... lot of AMD and all that other stuff, but so looking at this, take a look at Oneida for a minute. I'm not going to bother looking at the maps here. Again, this is just brainstorming tonight. Figured it was worth it. I gotta change the damn clock on this. Too bright. There we go. So we started that. Let me put this down to 06. Perfect. So assuming there's no switching district for Oneida, I can bring them down. Now again, what you're doing is you're actually using a very small area. Got a team track that I don't know much about anything. So you're basically you're having this section right here. You're not even using the entire Mohawk sub. And the reason why I'm focusing on that section as opposed to something, DeWitt's got a fair size yard, but it really represents. Let me go back to Oneida one more time. Or do I have a milepost on there? I do. So we go 266 up to 293, or 296. We're dealing with a 30-mile section of main line, which isn't much, nor is it supposed to be. So dispatch-wise, yeah, I do want to go back to Oneida for a second. I was afraid that I was going to go that way, but deleting the trains is not a big deal. I can do them, or I can run them to the end, or whatever the case may be. Yeah, hello. Now I'm lost. There we go. So let's do a flyby with the train here. Of course, this isn't even set up for any industries. This isn't set up for anything. And like I said, getting the creative juices flowing and trying to find ways of making it work is, you know, it's either, like I said in the beginning, or I put into the description, it's either do that or just basically shut it down, quit running it, give up. Which is okay, because I am enjoying other things. There's certainly a lot of other things I can do. If I don't like what I see, I can probably do something, you know, that would suit me better, I suppose. And this in no way, I mean, I'm missing some really nice, beautiful areas up by Selkirk. I could take a look over by Selkirk, but I don't see the potential, or as much as potential as I do as Syracuse. So this part is fairly straightforward, not too difficult to dispatch. So here we go. Yeah, 278. We're coming into. Was it a medium clear? Yep. So now we're coming into the Syracuse area. Okay. So obviously, I mean, yeah, at this point I haven't seen any you know, industries or anything like that in particular. Now, would I run this prototypical capacity? Hell no. I could because I'm taking a smaller section of it. But that's not necessarily what I want to do. I don't have to worry about routings too much. I could be very, you know, different as far as what I decide to do. You know, I could go the other way and say, oh, maybe I will use Selkirk. I haven't really tested Selkirk. I don't know if the hump's working pretty good. Chances are I may enjoy doing it, and I could try it again. But I don't know if, because I actually do prefer using the hump over flat switching. So it's certainly something to consider. I'm just not 100% sure if that's exactly what I want to do. I'm looking at the area here as far as what there is to switch, or what, you know, I see a lot here. I remember switching in here. I think, was it early this year, or can't remember. Probably one of the last times I was on it. But yeah, there's you know, if, not over too much as far as not massive amounts of industries, but just enough to make it you know, make it interesting enough. Do I have any industry? I haven't even checked to see if I have them on. Yeah, I do have the industry tags on. I just don't have industry set up here for whatever reason. Again, this might have been before the tags came in and I decided to delete the industries, which is very possible. I don't know if I even have a backup. Or there's a possibility that they never created the industries for it. So I mean, this section's really nice. You've got the speedway. You've got you know, whatever else you want to use up here. I don't know what to call this. The RTS Loner project. I've begun to run out of names. I'd call it the single player project, but I don't necessarily want to limit anything to single player, because for me there is a lot of joy, and I mean it can be frustrating at times too, but there's certainly a lot of potential. Now I had somebody running with me. I'm trying to remember who I had run with me back when we did run I think Selkirk project, but it was a little different then than what I'm thinking about doing now. We only had a couple of us anyways, so it's hard to say how I would do it, or even if I would do it, because I'm still, you know, trying to say, okay, well, is this what I wouldn't, you know, want to do? I know for, you know, for a fact that there's enough, there's much more trains here than, you know, you don't have to run every industry, you don't have to run everything. I'm just trying to find a way to make it work within what Run8 has now. So that's one way, and you need a yard. We've already looked at Oneida. Just trying to think now if there was. Of course, not too far from there you got Rome. Oh, that's yes, I know it's dark, but so he's only a couple away from yeah, it doesn't take too long to get these trains moving, so that's good. I could use the AI temporarily, at least to get traffic, spawn them manually perhaps. There's a lot of ways that you can get around with dealing with it. As far as demand or what's going to be on the trains, that's, you know, something totally different. I could also use the RTS software if I adapt it. It is possible. But since there's spawn points there already, you know, it leads itself, if you want to keep things simple, to try and play within the confines of how Run8 deals with it. Okay, so that's the Mohawk sub. I know there's I'm thinking of another yard. It's probably too small. It's more of a set-off yard to the short lines, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it's Utica. Yeah, I knew it was one of them. Yeah, Utica. I don't think. Utica is one of no, not for what I want to do. I mean, the only way I would do that, you know, it's not too bad of a yard, but no. So now when we move back to the original Selkirk, the question is, do I go back, or do I consider what could be? So some of the things, and my memory's going to fail to recall all the things that didn't work with this, but if I recall, I'm just trying to remember now. Trying to turn passenger trains at for example, at the Hudson or Albany, not on the Hudson line. In Albany, even with their Y or whatever, it was difficult to almost impossible. Now, that doesn't mean I cannot, and I've seen it done in California where they have an engine going both ways and you don't even need the Y. I may use a similar approach if I was to simulate the passenger traffic on the Hudson. I do like the idea of passenger traffic on the Hudson. It it gives it something, and it's pretty easy to set up. You just stack the suckers and just let them run. Gives them something to do. As far as where I would, I'm looking at, as far as the I don't know. Amsterdam to Hudson is only 60 miles, but considering that anything for the most part going down the Hudson is going to be 60 miles pretty quickly, it's not a big deal. Having trains come through to Selkirk, do their thing. Selkirk is a pretty big yard, let's face it. This is where, now it's not necessarily, I would say it's big. It's got to be bigger than, it's been a while since I've seen it, so let me just take a look at it. Yeah, see, I had the tag set up for Selkirk, but for whatever reason I did not have anything else set up, which is very strange, but question is, do I want to try to load a world save and try to hump and see how well it works? It's possible. Like, I don't know if it's been fixed, to be honest. I know there was a lot of other issues. I don't even know if it was an issue with Selkirk necessarily, or if it was a Run8 issue. But if it's gonna, the benefit of this, at least I can get into the hump here, because I got the manual switches. With Florida, you can't do it. But yeah, if I was gonna use it, I probably would use the hump. Now, one of the things I do recall that with Selkirk, or a lot of times, what would happen is I'd get into a situation where I was there would be too much. There'd be so much work that it would require. This is why I was thinking of Rochester. The reason why I was thinking of Rochester, I was thinking smaller, because Selkirk can hump, it's you know, you're basically dealing with a lot more. The reason why, like I said, you do something in Rochester at DeWitt, you're not classifying a connection so much, and you are doing that at Selkirk. Now, mind you, you can treat that as a local too, but this automatically, because of the nearby CPSK and the various ways you can go that way, it kind of becomes, Selkirk really lends itself to being like a Barstow for CSX, because you're now dealing with connections to East Coast going north and East Coast going south, as well as your main line to Buffalo, Chicago, connections into Canada, and you know, you're basically everything from there going west across the northern trunk line of CSX. So you've got a lot going on there. I don't want to really play around with it, and I know what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find a smaller level. I'm trying to find that Niagara, or at least closer to that Niagara. It's very difficult to do it when you have so much to do basically. So Mohawk is actually becoming more inviting. See, he's already in. Anything else that comes out of there is, you know, now you're dealing with the industry. So this is worth a look. Unfortunately, it's not the more, it's yeah, I mean, it's scenic enough, but it's not the most scenic part of it. It's pretty straightforward, of course. It's not so much the operating. Running a main line, running mains on this, I find it can be boring at times. But having, you know, having something to basically, you got the St. Lawrence sub a little bit. You got the Amtrak trains coming through. They'll come into Syracuse, do their thing. I can run full schedules on with them. That's not a problem. So it's possible. But again, you're getting away from. It takes a lot of creativity to get away from what it really does and trying to do something that it really doesn't do, but still create the illusion that what you're dealing with is virtual, but you're basically setting it up the way you want to set it up. I don't know if that makes much sense, to be quite honest. So I'm basically cutting off. I'm not worried about running trains all the way. I'm not worried about switching up by Utica, for example. I'm not worried about that. I'm not worried about Selkirk, to be honest. And unfortunately, you're missing. For me, even I, as someone who enjoys especially some of the more scenic parts with the Mohawk sub, because I mean, the Erie Canal, I forget where the hell that comes into play. It is on the Mohawk section, but I don't think it comes in until you get up to Rome, I think. Yeah, up through this way, up through here. I mean Oneida. I do not think you get to see it from here. Let me just double check. I don't think so. No, it's nowhere near. You got to go all the way up around Rome area here before you start seeing. Yeah, there it is right there. So there's your first look into it right there, and then no, you're not going to get it in that section, which is kind of sucks, because that to me, is one thing you can just pilot the trains into the yard and decide however the hell you want to do it from there. So you're at mile 283 here. You're going basically another 13 miles this way. So that's not too bad. Let me go back. We'll go one more. So that didn't take too long for that train to arrive, which is kind of cool. Of course, you're getting away from the mainline runs. I do like the mainline runs. I really do, and I like interesting main lines as well. Niagara is kind of weird when I think it, and I always think back to Niagara because really the Grimsby sub is very similar. It actually runs very similar to what the Mohawk sub does. It's pretty much straight and boring. That's no offense to the Mohawk. That's just the way it is. It runs below the Niagara Escarpment, close to Lake Ontario. Actually, closer to Lake Ontario on the Canadian side, but because it needs to get as close as the water as it can to get into around the Golden Horseshoe, they call it, on the western lake side of Lake Ontario, to get facing the other way, either to come into Toronto or to veer out and turn west. Now nothing really veers out and turns west anymore, with the exception of 330, 331, which has been reinstated. At one time there was NS 327, 328. Other trains are 421, 422, 334, 335. 334 and 335 haven't run. That's been discontinued. NS 327, 328 no longer runs. The only thing that's left now is 421, 422. The reinstated 330, 331. They all run in the morning with the exception of train 330 that comes in the evening. There's another 500 series train that runs back and forth between Aldershot and Port Robinson. So Port Robinson is basically in the central part of Niagara. It's the last small yard before heading to the States. And it will run back and forth to Aldershot, which is located between the city of Hamilton, which is close to Toronto. It's on the western end of Lake Ontario. There's a big Hamilton Harbor there, and another big city across from it, which is Burlington, or Burlington Bay. They call it the Burlington Bay Skyway, that the QEW runs across as it basically turns from a westward direction and starts heading east on the other side of Lake Ontario. So that all goes through my area in Niagara, and then it comes back around to the Oakville sub and the Halton sub, heads towards Toronto. So there's not much as far as CN trains otherwise, other than whatever. There's not much. There's pretty much no locals. Trillium runs a short line through Niagara, and you have CP that runs, I believe, about 10 trains. 2 of them are intermodals. That the only 2 intermodal trains that run. CN used to run intermodals at one time, 154, 155. Forgot about that one. There's been other ones over the years, 338, 339. No longer ran. That used to be the CSX portion of it. It was eventually turned into 421, 422. And used to have a local called 569. They had 564. They had so CN had a bunch of them. CP, you know, maybe at one point had a dozen trains. I'm sure they had more. CP doesn't have any passenger runs, except Go Transit runs their line into Hamilton Station from Toronto, and the same thing happens on CN. They'll run to a new station on the other side of Hamilton, which is the lower side, and used to just run to Aldershot, but it runs past that. And they also run to Niagara. They'll run into the GO trains. Actually, do the GO trains is just like Toronto's. It stands for Government Ontario, but it runs not inter. What the hell am I talking? Commuter service between Toronto and the smaller regions and municipalities within the GTA, and now, you know, of course, it stretches outside the GTA into other regions such as Niagara, and because basically Niagara is a bedroom community to Toronto, and also a lot of people come down to see the falls and the casino and all that other garbage that's down this way. Tourist traps, you know. It's more tailored towards the Torontonians to come here, as opposed to people like myself who'd want to come maybe actually visit Toronto. While the schedule is more appealing to people coming into Niagara early on in the day than people going to Toronto to spend a day there. It's kind of ass backwards if you ask me, but it's not always been that way. But still, it's been a while since I've taken it. I've taken Go Bus this year, but I think it's, yeah, I've taken a Go Bus this year at least once, and that just runs between Toronto and back. So anyways, I don't know how I got on that, but so I was going to look at just at the southeast real quickly. And again, this is just brainstorming some ideas. I'll have to think about it, give some food to thought, see if it's possible. Maybe Sunday I'll take a look at it if I feel like it. I'm not really inspired at this point, but you know, I would have loved to see what other, honestly, I would have loved to see what new regions, quote unquote, Run8 was going to bring us, or you know, what new developers were going to come online. We haven't heard. It's been like crickets. It's kind of like crickets. It's the same. It's the same chirping sound that you hear. You know, when you post a message, you try to get a response from people to say, "Hey, you know, let's talk what's real," but then nobody wants to reply. Nobody wants to get involved in that. You know, it's like, yeah, no, we're not gonna bad. We don't want to say anything bad about Run8. No, can't do that. Hey, I love Run8. I wouldn't be doing this if I didn't. But I've lost my enthusiasm for this a long time ago. That's why I didn't go on the server tonight, quite frankly. So let's go to the extra boards for a minute. Take a look around. And we'll take a quick gander here. Whew, that's dark. Or bright, I should say. I'll have to change one of those screens if I ever decide to do it. Now, the issue I had for the Sanford sub was you have all these grade crossings and you're trying to dispatch. That's the problem I came into. You are just breaking, you know, you are just cutting the horn like crazy. It's just the way it is, but engineers are not supposed to dispatch either, so that's another flaw. So I mean, you know, nothing going, you know, I understand why they build the regions and they try these things. And Sanford sub, really, I was running it at a lot higher capacity than what it was in reality, I think. I could, in theory, or maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was running it in actual capacity, but hard to say. I can't remember. Maybe I was. It's very possible. Of course, most of the traffic will be going down the Callahan sub and avoiding this whole area, which is in itself shows a potential. Gets interesting once it splits, because there are some potentials there, but I'm still trying to find the only place that I can think of other than the Sanford sub is Moncrief itself, and I'm not 100% sure how that would work. I've never really looked at that, but I've always felt that that yard has much more potential, or at least it did have potential at one time, but I've never really figured out how. When you look at a yard the size of Moncrief, okay, well, we'll have to get to it first, but I think I'm gonna go this way. Holy crap. Well, it's foggy as hell, but anyways, you look at the size of this yard. This yard is freaking huge. Of course, you got the transfer in with the Florida East Coast. Yeah, it's just, wow, I haven't seen fog in a long time. This is interesting. Is this fog or rain? I don't know what the hell it is, but it's very interesting. So yeah, the yard's nice and all, but it's kind of overkill for me. There's actually a lot on the Sanford sub itself that lends to kind of giving you the idea of more of a smaller line feel. If I could avoid Orlando and kind of look up here, just trying to think now. Pecan Yard is probably one of, like, if I was to look at a possibility. Now I forget where I had them spawn out of. I think one of them comes out of here. I believe I do have a spawn in Moncrief. I'm almost certain I do. Let me double check on that one. Okay, yeah. So yeah, there is a Moncrief southbound. So that takes care of that. There's Jacksonville ramp, and then there's unfortunately going the other way, you got to deal with you're dealing with Taft. That's the closest you're going to get to anything coming the other way, which, you know, that's just the way it was. It wasn't built. I liked how you know, I like how Mikey put in a lot of spawn points. So having it come all the way from Taft makes it a little bit more difficult, but not impossible, because you can always just run the train's AI if you choose, and then look at a particular yard and call it more of a division yard. Let me just take a look at yeah, see, I had these set up now. These yards aren't very big. I think the biggest one I'm gonna probably find out of all of them may be around here. Sanford's one of them, but again, you're starting to get into Honky Village here. You're definitely into this area here. I know it goes pretty crazy, but I think it does up here too, if I recall. Sanford is an interesting one. So that's, you know, it's a fair size yard. Not too bad. I wouldn't mind a little bit bigger, just a little bit. But it's something. So if I was to guess at where would I do it? I honestly, you know, begin to wonder if, let me just try something here. Let me go back to regions. Let me go to Selkirk. So this was the last world sample local Selkirk heavy haul. I don't know what the hell that is. There was a hump test. I'm willing to try this and see what the hell. Oh, okay. What was I testing in the hump? Because if that was the that was the hump test, really? I mean, it looks cool. Do I not have a train in the area I can use? It's kind of a weird hump test. No, I don't have anything in the receiving whatsoever. Okay, well, main menu. I'll see what this has got. Remove train that spawned on missing track. Yeah, I don't know what the hell I was doing a Selkirk project because I don't see anything really set up at the moment. I had everything else fleeted through. Very strange. And a caboose. Interesting. What's with all the cabooses? I mean, they really look cool and all, but it looks strange. Okay. Well, I'm gonna call it for the night for now. I gotta think about this some more. I'll give myself a little time. Maybe Sunday I'm not gonna have much time. Maybe I'll think about it Monday or Sunday night. I'll probably do some sailing on Sunday by the looks of it. That seems to relax my mind, so this is just a lot to consider. But yeah, it's not going to be easy. I know that for sure. Now, before I end this, what I'm probably at least eyeballing right now is running single player, or at the very least something that I can muster up from single player between Oneida and west of Syracuse. Trains would spawn coming westbound at Oneida siding. They would automatically get the light. I would have a permanent stop signal at 266, and I would likely delete trains at that point. So they'd come up to 266, that'd be it. The siding would be the spawn point. So basically all you're doing is running a train through, you're either running it into DeWitt or you're running it through DeWitt. There's no other Amtrak stations. The only Amtrak station is Syracuse, so you're missing all the remainder of everything else. Now the reason I would start there at first is to try and get the Syracuse local industries set up. And by that, what I mean is get everything set up so that you take a 24-hour schedule and you see how long it takes you to switch said industries, supply the trains, do everything you have to do to get it to go, and then see how it goes. See how much man hours are really required, then decide whether or not you know, how you're going to do it, basically. I look at DeWitt Yard as being not a terminating yard but a through yard. In other words, trains will come in, some will just go through town, others will just come in, set off their work, do whatever, and then just go. If I want to complicate things further, I could bring the spawn point back to, you know, further down back. If I want to complicate things, if I don't, I just leave it with, you know, with basically spawning at Oneida and leave it at that. So that being said, this is how it would work. I would set it up for myself. I'd run it myself. I would run it whenever the hell I want to. I wouldn't have to worry about scheduling sessions. I wouldn't have to worry about advertising. I wouldn't have to worry about YouTube. I'd just do whatever the hell I want, when I want, and how I feel like it. And that would be it. So that in itself takes, you know, basically takes any pressure off of me. I just do my own thing. If I want to do it, I do it. If I don't, I don't. If I feel as though I'm open to participation, then I'll post a message on RTS and see. Now, my forums are fairly dead as they are. I'd like to see what happens. I'm actually very curious as to what happens in the YouTube stream moving forward. I have 410 subscribers. Is it because they want to see multiplayer? Is it because they want to see me run on servers with a lot of other choo-choos going by and that's all they care about? I don't know. I'm not sure. I have I get about 100 views. So I easily, you know, I average about 100 views after, you know, give it a week or two. About 100 views, whereas other videos I do, you know, I'd be lucky to get 30. So obviously I have some reach. I'd be curious to see if there's a drop off when I decide to try to do this, or if there's curiosity. If there's curiosity and people, maybe I'm giving them some ideas for their own ways of doing things, then maybe perhaps there's some potential. Then if there's some really eager people that are looking at possibly doing this, obviously this isn't one of the default routes, but I'm not worried about that. It's Mojave, yeah, I could do Mojave, but honestly I wish I wouldn't have to go to one of these routes, because these routes are not built to be small. They're built to run big systems. And the idea, I think the whole idea was find places where you can run the most popular traffic, the busiest lines, and the most industries in whatever priority. And then that's going to get more people interested in buying the routes. The problem with that is when you have a multiplayer and you have the potential, which Run8 gives you, to operate 100% prototypically. You can have all the switching, you can have the hump, you can have all the dispatching, you name it, you can do it all. Because you have that potential now, has anybody ever tried to run a 100% capacity schedule other than RTS? And I would say no. Nobody has. I don't think, I honestly believe that. I don't think there's anybody out there that has ever done what we achieved for a brief amount of time. And we weren't the busiest server. It wasn't a matter of us being the busiest server. We just had enough dedicated people, and we actually ran a schedule. We actually ran a full 100% capacity server. We ran the trains, we did the jobs, we got everything going. We were moving just as many carloads as any other server, including the popular ones at the time. And we did it with, the number of people we have. Now, can people do it now? Yes. Do they? I've heard stuff like, well, it's kind of like how version 1 of RTS used to run. How it used to run on version 1, where you just you take a train, do it whenever. That kind of is appealing to me in a way, because in a smaller sense it could work in a smaller world. So that appeals to me. That's why I've kind of recently mentioned it as well. That's a possibility of running a server that way, because then you run, say, a smaller world, and then suddenly you've got the possibility there, because now you run a server 24/7 on a line that's not that busy. Then you can actually run it in real time and not have to worry about every few days or whatever running 3 hours of a schedule. And believe me, I used to do the same thing, and it's tough. It's tough when you come on to, put it this way, for me, I find it's tough for me to come on to, when I looked at Run8, I looked at this as ultimately something that was going to replace my experience in a model railroad club. I looked at it as a virtual 1-to-1 scale, virtual scale, or V scale, as opposed to HO scale. I looked at it as V scale. In other words, there was no ratios, there was no fast clocks. It was just we run, and that's it. The problem with that is, in reality, what a model railroad does really well is often be able to run a 24-hour clock because everything's condensed. So you're condensing everything and you're running a fast clock, and you can actually, for us, it was a 4-to-1 fast clock. We used to go through a session in 6 hours up at when we actually ran in the Waterloo Central. So that worked out pretty good. The thing about that, though, is, as well, when you have your favorite jobs, whether it be dispatcher, yard master, yard crew, train crew, Romford operator, like I was saying the other night. You kind of have your number one choice you want to do when you get to the club. If number one is already taken, well, then you got a number two, and then you got a number three. When I come on to, say, the Southwest server, for example, I really don't know where they are in the schedule. I mean, I can check, but I don't know what to expect. And this isn't a criticism of Southwest. This is just the way it is. Southwest is a great bunch of guys. I enjoy running with them. I'm just trying to find, do I want to continue to do that and, you know, just kind of be like, yeah, just do it for the hell of it? Because I really was asking myself, what the hell am I doing this for? Because I obviously wasn't enjoying it. So I want to find the enjoyment again in this. I really do. I'm just having a difficult time finding it right now. And I've been struggling like this for probably a good year. And the main culprit to this is the direction of Run8, as far as I'm concerned. There's just not enough. When you look at the changes that happen in version 1, and yeah, okay, fine, we got our money's worth. I got no problem with that. It's the best software. It's the best train simulator on the planet. I've never said it wasn't, but to be able to have all those changes that took place in version 1 over even faster updates, because it's a growing sim. I mean, the hump came online. There was all kinds of things. If you were in the days when Run8 first started, like I was, or even before, you would see a total night and day change to the sim. And the sim was good when it started. It just got better and better as it went along. It went through some growing pains, but it got better and better. And the updates were just coming. They were just like rapid fire. They just get coming and coming. Version 2 updates to me have not been spectacular nor rapid. And I understand there's been health issues and other things. I understand when people say, well, this is a small group of guys, but as I used my example and posted it on both my forum, Train Sim, the same post, to absolutely no response, which is kind of normal these days. Like I said, it's like yelling in a forest. Basically I said, I lost my train of thought, but must be getting tired. But yeah, it's, you know, it was an important point too, but I lost it, so I ain't gonna worry about it. But yeah, now I'm not gonna find it. That's just the way my brain works. Probably too tired. Okay, so enough rambling. I'll just call it for the night, but we'll see what happens, though, moving forward, and who knows. Oh yeah, I was going to say, what you had in version 2, the updates weren't as fast, and really the information as far as what's coming up, other than a couple of Facebook posts that people shared and stuff like that, we really didn't know, or at least not all of us knew, what was happening. The only thing I've heard is version 3 is coming at the end of the year. That was the direction I heard. I heard there was going to be new routes. I heard that was going to be new developers. Has any of those things started to progress, or is this all going to happen magically once version 3 comes along? The main focus of this year has been, or this year and really the last year, is all it's been is about, to me, other than some minor tweaks to version 2 software and fixing a few bugs, I think the major focus has been LA and maybe Seligman. And I'm not too sure what else they got in mind, whatever else they're working on, I suppose. And like I said too, I mean, everybody said, well, you know, there's a small team and blah blah blah. Well, like I said before, I know people who have some pretty cool games that I enjoy as well, that I still enjoy, that I love the development of it, and they're one man crews. That some people can do it. So there are, I mean, there are people that are full time in this. Not everybody, obviously. There's a lot of people who have jobs. Heck, I can't find the energy at the end of the day to even get through procrastination and do things. So, I mean, I'm not going to be a hypocrite about it if I can't do it. But the bottom line is, I haven't put a paid product out there either. And nobody, once you put a paid product, the bottom line is this: it's basically you have agreed to buy what has been sold. I hear so many people complaining, well, you call this, call this game, or whatever game it is. I mean, the one I'm using right now, one of the games I'm enjoying, to say, well, this is a complete game. This can't be a complete game. If the developer feels it's a complete game and you bought it, well, that's your own stupidity. But then they say, well, because there's bugs and different graphics, and and blah blah blah. Well, there's a lot of complaints going around for various bugs in different machines. So far, I haven't had a bug at all, and I run a medium grade computer, so I don't know what the issues are. But those things do happen, and as long as there's a team that's willing to fix them, and then that's not an issue. Run8's always also been willing to fix their bugs too. So a lot of people complain at Run8 too, unfairly, quite frankly. But these things do happen. So development's not easy. So you gotta cut the guys some slack. So once you have a program out there, though, they're under no obligation to provide updates or whatever. The difference is, for me, is I see version 1 of this tremendous growth, and that they're quote unquote in it for the long run. Then I see version 2 where things kind of die off, things slow down, and I understand, like I said before, health issues, other things. What at the trend that they're going, version 3, I have no interest in version 3, and quite frankly, I would have to see. I mean, I don't even know what the hell they're selling. I haven't got a clue. So that's going to be up to them to convince people, as far as I'm concerned. But we'll see. I mean, version 2, there's this tremendous anticipation for it. I don't think it's there for version 3. I know some people are all happy about it, but that's nice. What's it supposed to do? What's it going to do that version 2 can't? That's to me going to be a determining factor of whether or not I purchase it or not. And what's the backwards compatibility going to be? If I'm decide not to want to do version 3, am I going to get am I going to be able to purchase these quote-unquote new regions and new routes and all this other stuff, or am I going to have to upgrade to version 3 in order to get them? If it's the latter, just to get new routes, I don't know. That seems like a double whammy to me. So no, version 3 is going to have to be something special, as far as I'm concerned. But that's just me. But I don't know. I can't even speculate, because I haven't even got a clue where the hell they're going with it, to be quite honest. Perhaps a new game engine, maybe, I don't know. I guess better graphics, which I really don't care about, quite frankly. Would I love the hump to work better? Sure, but that's the least of my worries. Sounds, I'm the least of my worries. Not worried about that stuff. I would rather see the potential that Run8 has now be fulfilled. Take me back to the days of the winter, or January, or whatever the hell it was, of 2017. Take me back to January 2017, when I was dispatching with one other person and we were doing full capacity. That is what was cool. We can't do that now because we don't have, I mean, there's just too much. There's too much added, and it's a choice. I mean, ultimately it was Mike's server, and Mike's got to do what Mike's got to do best for himself. And when Seligman gets added and LA gets added, then what do? Well, what? Well, these guys have all these other added routes that are connected to California. They want to run them. So are they going to go to servers that have them, or are they going to go to servers that don't have them? Suddenly now you have a difference. You have a difference maker. Just what I'm trying to do here, like this whole thing of just running this whole area. I don't expect that to be popular. That's why I'm kind of thinking about doing this just for myself and saying the hell with it. But we'll see. I'm not that enthralled, let's just say. I'm not that thrilled to get into it because right now I don't like the future of Run8 personally. I'm not too sure about it because really there's nothing that has given me any sense of what's to come. I mean, they have YouTube channels, they have all kinds of ways of getting to the people, but if all they care about is impressing their friends, well, fine, their friends might buy it, but you're not going to get it, and you're still getting new members. That's there's still people buying it regardless, so I guess it doesn't matter too much to them. So anyways, I'll get off my soapbox, and we'll see. I don't know what I want to do, but we'll see what happens down the road. So anyways, hope you enjoyed that tirade. Didn't mean to take you there. I'd rather do the brainstorming instead of ranting and raving, but I'm gonna call it the night now. So have a good one, guys. Thanks for joining me, and like always, my forum's there if you want to post and leave comments and suggestions and ideas. I don't care. Something's better than nothing. So otherwise, just I'll do my own thing probably from moving forward, I think. So we'll see. But anyways, have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you later.